Good afternoon, Councillor.
Good afternoon, Donald. I'm delighted to be with you this afternoon. How are you?
Fine, thank you very much. And thank you so much for participating or to agree to participate in this project with Forgotten Generations. It's absolutely fantastic. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I'm Jackie Taylor. I'm councillor of a ward called Greets Green and Ling in Sandwell. I represent 11,500 people in that ward. It's a very diverse ward, but on the 24th of May of this year, you know, I'm so proud to say that I was inaugurated as the first Black Deputy Mayoress of Sandwell. I'm not expecting you to address me as Deputy Madam Mayor, nor am I expecting you to address me as councillor, because I'm doing this project out of those roles. But I would like you just to call me Jackie, if that's okay.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you for that introduction and congratulations on your latest post. And oh, wow, that's fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. So again, welcome to the Forgotten Generations. And this is a project that I would like to enhance what we do as, shall I say, people of color, especially from the African and Caribbean people. And your title there has got to be a role model for so many different reasons. So before we go further, I just want to say thank you very much for that again and for accepting this. So let's go into your background, if you don't mind, and tell me a little bit about yourself and indeed the rest of your family, if you like.
Okay, thank you for that. So, yes, I was born in, I'm a 60s babe, and I was born in Marston Green, little hospital there. It's always perplexed me why it was that my mum actually travelled there to give birth to me, because we actually lived in Aston, in Birmingham. And yeah, you know, I lived there with my younger siblings, older sister, and coming and going, a sister that arrived from Jamaica, and a brother who had lived in London. He actually, at the time, I didn't know this, but used to see him in a very smart uniform, did national service.
Really?
Yeah, he did national service.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, even as a child, it's really bizarre, but I did become aware of the fact that I had siblings, obviously much older than me, who were living in Jamaica. And it's only kind of late in life that I had met these siblings. Yeah.
Okay. So your parents, I take it, then are from Jamaica?
Both my parents from different parishes in Jamaica. So my beautiful mother was born in St. James in Mobay. Okay. And my amazing dad was born in St. Catherine.
Okay, okay. And have you had the privilege of visiting Jamaica?
I have indeed. So if I can start with St. Catherine, very close I was, Donald, to my dad. You know, even just talking about him, my heart's going. And, you know, for many, many years, I used to dictate letters for my dad to send off to a family in Jamaica. He was always very conscious of sending money over to family members. And I have to say, and it seems very, very simplistic, when these letters were being sent to a post office in Jamaica, I could never fathom, and I did talk to my dad a lot about this, because I was like, well, how do they get their mail when it just goes to this post office? And he'll say, because, Jackie, periodically people, come from where they are and they go up to the post office, and that's where they collect their mail. And for a long time, I actually wanted to see this post office that I was writing to for many, many years. And so, when I got married in 91, and so lucky to marry in Barbados, and then we went over to Jamaica on honeymoon.
All right.
Honestly, I was so taken back by what I now probably think of were the simplistic things of Jamaica, but actually meant a lot to me, putting things into context. So yes, I've been there. Went up to Mo Bay to meet some of my family there, and tend to go to Barbados more than Jamaica because my husband's Barbadian.
All right. So very, very interesting there. The point you make about, what seems so simplistic can be so different, all because of our experiences in life.
Yeah, and I can go into that.
Yeah, because, it's both ways, where one person may take it for granted because of their experience, how for instance, here, the letters drop through your door, whereas back in some of those countries, it's a central place where people have to go and pick up their mail.
Yeah.
Coming from this country, who'd ever think of that?
It's just amazing.
And to think that you used to write all these letters for your dad, and and then to get the end result of you going across there to see how it was all. I think that's wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super.
And simple as it sounds, obviously, to get our hard food here, we go to shop and get the food, and we bring it home, or we might have it delivered. But just to see people picking oranges and mango from trees and digging up yam, and understanding the different yams that you can plant, and it's funny to say, but understanding more about our food, the freshness of food, and I mean, I don't eat meat anymore. I don't eat meat or poultry, but just to have something so fresh on your plate, and knowing that chicken was killed this morning, and this is what you've got on your plate today. It's just amazing. So yeah,
absolutely, and I do identify with all what you're saying. And I look at the other side of that, where you've got youngsters who are born here, like yourself, who will never know the difference. But you've seen the difference.
Yeah.
Because all our youngsters, majority of them, I should say, think everything comes from the supermarket. So to see that you've experienced the growth of things from the ground or in the trees, and etc., that's a wonderful contrast and an excellent experience. Great to share that with you, actually, because a lot of people listening to this may well wonder what you're talking about. And I just hope that they will, from listening to you, go and experience what you just said.
I'm very pleased that my children have been able to experience that.
Excellent.
And as parents, for myself and my husband, that's an important factor of parenting. I say it's important. I mean, I'm not taking it for granted that everybody can do that. Of course, I'm not doing that, and I'm not judging people either.
Absolutely.
But I'm just really pleased that we've been able to give our children that same experience. And I remember one year we went over, I think it was Barbados actually, and we came back in September, which would have been the new term for my daughter. Don't think our son was born then. And I'll never forget, we spent some time in Barbados, and by the time she was on the plane, me and my husband kind of looked at each other and say, oh my goodness, she's grown so much in that short period of time. Yeah. What are we going to do? And obviously, by the time we got home, her school shoes couldn't fit her.
Really?
Sunshine and good fresh food just made our daughter grow. So I remember that very first day of term, we actually had to take her to get new shoes.
Wow.
She couldn't have gone to school. And so I remember I was walking through Birmingham city centre and she thought, oh, Mum, it's all so grey, it's all so grey. And I thought, you're absolutely right, you know, in contrast to where we just come back from, the colour and gaiety of Barbados, you know, it was great to her, but they're very lucky, very lucky.
Yeah. Can I ask then, was your husband born here or was he born in Barbados?
He was born in Barbados.
Okay, because I was looking at whether or not he would be doing the contrasting thing just like you've done, you know, with your experience of being born here and going to Caribbean. Okay, so that's good. So you've experienced Jamaica and Barbados. Any other Caribbean islands?
Cuba.
Oh, Cuba. Now there's another interesting place. But tell me more about your parents. You know, because you seems to have a really great, what shall I say? You really praise your parents, especially your dad.
Yeah. So both my parents met here in this country, and my dad worked for many years as a labourer in the car industry.
All right.
Yeah. My mom worked for many years as a auxiliary nurse. And my mom actually resided in London because as a small child, you know, as I'd said to you before, I was born in the West Midlands and educated to a certain space, certain place at school here in the Midlands. And then because of my parents splitting, coming and going from London to Birmingham.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. So did that affect your schooling at all, do you think, or affect you as an individual, that sort of experience?
You know, Donald, it's interesting when you reflect back, yeah, because whatever journey I've been through, and this is what I say to a lot of people to empower people, is it's the making of you or the breaking of you. Yeah.
Indeed.
And so all that I've been through has made me who I am today. And I think you'd agree, I haven't turned out too bad.
I certainly agree with that. I agree.
Yeah.
So what were your school years like then? You know.
Right. Very yin and yang, actually.
Really?
And yeah, absolutely. Because first of all, as I was growing up as a little child in Aston, you know, a lot of Caribbean people had just more or less come in the late 50s, that influx of the Windrush generation and early 60s. And I do remember as a child thinking, wow, you know, because obviously all these people were so vibrant, not only in the way that they dressed, but in the way that they carried themselves. And I used to think to myself that old people, and this is actually written in a book, this statement, that Black people could never get old, because at that time we were just seeing these new influx of young Black people coming over in comparison to a lot of elderly white people that at that time resided in Aston.
Okay.
And I loved it. Yeah, I actually loved the community feeling, the feeling that, you know, everybody was kind of like supporting everybody. I loved seeing my parents happy. I loved the fact that my dad was such a sociable and integral part of the community. But of course, when your parents split, that's not nice.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And you know, but when my mom left, I stayed in Aston for a while. And yeah, supporting my dad, supporting my younger siblings as much as I could. Um, as the only girl in the household then.
Oh, I see.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. So
Oh,
yeah, so yeah, and then when I was around about 11, I was taken back down to London, and there I stayed till I was around about 17, 18. Um,
oh, that's interesting. So your school years were covered between Birmingham and London.
yeah.
Okay. Did you find it much of a difference when you went to London to live as a child in terms of the actual, this it's the first city, isn't it? From the second city, first city, and also different schooling and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I found it a major contrast because
Really?
so when I say that I went to school in London, I went to school in a place called Norbury, southwest London.
All
If
right.
you imagine where Brixton is, you've got Streatham, and then you
Mm,
come through. And at that time, I would say there wasn't many black families around
I
in
see.
that part of London. Um, so, I mean, I've just said to you, your experience can either make you or break you.
Mm,
One of the things I've learned from that experience is how adaptable you can be. Yeah.
indeed.
And there are times that you can look back and say, well, I didn't have any choice but to be adaptable. No,
Mm,
we do have choices. We do absolutely have choice. And you can either
mm,
choose to assimilate or not. And
mm.
so that's exactly, I mean, I wouldn't have had this kind of language then, but that's exactly what I did. Hmm.
So your final years in London, in school rather, how was that? Did you find school an enjoyable sort of experience, or was it something that just happened?
Um, Half and half, yes and no. And I think partly, or a major thing for me, was I so missed my dad.
Right.
As strange as it, I so missed family unit, and
Yes.
I missed my dad so much. Um, Even to the point, I very much remember. Um, you can imagine, as a Labour politician, I'm a unionist as well,
Mm.
and I didn't know that I was gathering all this knowledge when I was young. But I do remember. Have you ever heard of Red Robbo?
No.
He was a big unionist at the Longbridge plant
Oh yeah.
in Birmingham,
Mhm.
and my dad used to work at Longbridge, and there was a time when there were like major strikes going on
Mm.
across the UK. And when the news used to come on, I used to get my two little brothers, and I used to
Yes.
say, sit there, sit there, sit there. We might see our dad on TV, because it'd be a
Really?
massive, yeah, massive these guys in their donkey jackets. And of course I could never spot my dad. But
Uh,
yeah, I think more for me, I was just longing for the family unit
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
being with my dad.
So
But
how often did you actually see your dad, being down there? Did you sort of every so often just pop up to see him, or were there long gaps in between?
there were gaps in between, but we were allowed to come to Birmingham, kind of like summer holidays.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
summer holidays. So, and then go back. But
Mm,
I mean, I just made the most of my time,
mm,
because obviously I had cousins here, and I had friends from when I went to junior infant school.
mm.
So I was able to maintain that relationship. Um, Only thing for me, I'd noticed every time I came back, I was speaking more like this, and they're talking, "What you on about, Jackie?" And I was like, "This is how I talk. I can't help it."
So talking about school up until 17, then did you leave school with some sort of plan as to your career?
Okay, so the plan was for me to, finish school and go off and do some nursing or secretarial work, typical kind of jobs that I would pertain to Black women of my age.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so what was interesting was that I left London at the age of 17. When I left school, I just says to my mum, I'm just going to pop and see our dad. And no problem. Came to see my dad and actually never returned back to London to live.
Really?
All right, it's a
Wow.
bit naughty. I didn't plan that, but you know what?
Yeah.
That's how it went. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, the way you speak about your dad, I can understand that, because you just seem to be so attached to your dad that it's almost like an easy decision to make at that time to just, you know, transition back to Birmingham to be where he was. So yeah, I get that. I really get that.
I think if you knew my dad, you'd fall in love with him as well, Donald.
Yeah.
He was just amazing. Yeah, he was proper man's man, tailor-made suits with his chubby hat. And I think he's in that same book as well. And, you know, everybody loved my dad. He was a very generous man, generous with his time, generous with his wisdom. And, you know, I just had the most lovely relationship with my dad. He passed away in 2020.
Oh, right. So sorry
Yeah,
to hear that. Wow.
yeah. So
No.
when I say my dad passed away in 2020, I can't begin to tell you how much I miss my dad. But I
Wow.
know my dad's with me all the time.
Brilliant. That's really a good feeling. So he had a good chance then to see you sort of blossom in your career then.
My dad was in awe of the fact that I became a local Labour politician. Because my dad was from rural St. Catherine.
Okay.
And in his way, he was a politician. Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
And I remember having great in-depth conversations with one of my uncles when he was alive about politics as well.
Mm.
And what I particularly found quite awesome to me was that both these elderly men, I mean, my dad was 96, nearly 97 when he passed.
Wow, that's a good age.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
good age.
So, you know, they were so well informed when it came to politics.
Mm.
Not only the politics in their country, but the politics in this country as well.
Mm.
So my dad was so, I can't begin to tell you, so proud that I became a Labour politician in Sandwell here.
So then, I mean, career-wise, I don't know what you thought about when you were leaving school, because later on down the road, obviously, somewhere along the line, probably your dad influenced you in becoming a politician. But what did you do before that? Did you actually take up some sort of other profession?
I did, yeah. So my professional background is nursing,
Okay.
social work. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Period of time working with accommodated young people, children's homes. These professions where you're actually giving and caring for people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I'm programmed to care.
Okay.
Yeah. And so in terms of those jobs, I can tell you that I'm well informed in terms of the things that we see on the news. I do not believe, Donald, that nurses, social workers, people in any sphere of caring in the public sector get paid enough.
And
They can never be paid enough for what they do.
I get that.
Yeah. And, you know, I can tell you some stories, which I'm not going to tell you on this platform, that qualifies exactly what I'm saying to you. They will never be paid enough, but they're certainly not paid enough at this moment in time.
And I think everybody would agree with you about that right now. So how long did you do in the nursing profession then?
Okay, so when I qualified, I had a feeling that this profession is not for me. I did my qualification and then I stayed at Sandwell for a while, and then I worked at the neurosurgical hospital, which was based in Smethwick.
Okay.
And I was there for a little while and then did some agency nursing, and then definitely decided this is not for me.
Mhm.
So, it's interesting because I do remember some of the conversations I had with my peers at the time, such
Mm.
as, what about your pension? And I remember thinking, well, if I stay doing this, I might never see my pension. So off I went.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I worked for a while with young people in children's homes, which was just amazing. Yeah.
Mm.
And quite humbling, actually.
Yes.
And then went off and did my social work training,
Mm.
and specialised in working with older adults, although I've got a broad spectrum of social work.
Yes, that sounds really very, very broad. So, it comes to the point where you had to make the decision to become a politician as such. So what was the clinch? What made that happen?
Okay, well, as I say to you, or perhaps I didn't, sorry. I was elected 2014 as the only Black and first Black woman, African Caribbean woman in Sandwell to be elected in that post.
Okay.
We'd lived in Sandwell for quite a few years,
Mm.
and I had people that were encouraging me to kind of like go through the process in terms of being selected.
Mhm.
And I oomed and ahed about it for a little while because um, obviously I had my career and I had stuff that I was doing, and my children were young as well.
Mm.
But I can tell you, it's really strange how things work out, because I remember some of the, and this sounds strange, but some women used to pass my house, and we were a busy, busy family at the time. We were literally that family that were in and out of our cars and our house and cars and house because of work and
Yes.
because of the activities that our children were involved in, and very didn't have that much engagement with the people here because we were literally like this on the drive of our house.
Mm.
But I remember, and this comes down to perception, doesn't it, that some elderly women one morning stopped me and they had their trolleys, shopping trolleys, and they were complaining about the pavements. And I reluctantly stopped to speak with them because time.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah. But I'm glad that I did,
Mm.
because they were complaining about the pavements. And I had noted that these pavements were a bit of a death trap, particularly to elder people.
Right.
And I made contact with the council. This was well before I was elected. And before I knew, I was working with the council in configuring the pavements out of our house here now, and was able to rectify that. And I actually had that buzz and that feeling of how wonderful it is to engage with the council to change lives in that way.
Oh.
And thereafter, I did pursue that position. And although, and remember, I told you what experience you go through, it either makes or breaks you.
Yes.
I went to so many selections, 7, 8, or 9 selections to become a councillor in Sandwell, and was so pleased and privileged to become a councillor in Greets Green and Ling. As I say, 11,500 people I represent there, very diverse community, and I've built up some amazing relationships with some of the people that live there.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, what is it like to, or what was it like to go through all these 7 or 8 different phases of selection for you? That must be quite an experience.
It was indeed, and it did get to a point where I thought, rejection, I don't want that anymore. But there was something burning inside of me, Donald, that actually said, no, 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 you can't give up. You just cannot give up. Yeah. And again, like I say to my peers, you're put on a journey for a reason. Sometimes we cannot question that reason. We've just got to go with it. And So, you know, as much as sometimes it was a little bit demoralizing, I'm glad that I just had that tenacity to keep going to the point that at one point I was successful.
Excellent, absolutely excellent. And that, I call that journey that you talk about, I call it the path of life. We've all got one, only we don't see it because we can't. It unfolds each day. But
Yeah.
once you've got that inner belief that you can do it, you get there.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So what's your experience been like then since you've become a councillor? It must have been quite a wide. I mean, you mentioned that you're the first Black person, but to become a councillor in Sandwell. That's history there straight away in the making. So what's your experience been like?
Well, I'm not going to sugarcoat this at all. I don't think it's fair to your viewers for me to sugarcoat this. There's been a lot of highs, but there's been some lows as well. So the highs, as I've said to you, is the privilege of people letting you into their lives. People must hit rock bottom before they come to an elected member for support. Yeah. And, for people to let you into their lives, into their domain, honestly, it's just wonderful. Yeah, that they have that trust. I kind of like have that same role within my party where I'm on the Association of Labour Councillors. And so the trust of having councillors ring you up with some situations that they're in, again, that is a privilege. But, there are times that racism does rear its ugly head. And, there's times that it can be lonely. Yeah.
Yes.
There's sorry?
Yes, I'm just agreeing with you. Yes.
Yeah. But again, it's how you utilize every situation that comes your way. So I'm not a victim to that loneliness at all. I've got friendship groups, I've got political friends kind of scattered all over. And I've got an amazing husband, Donald. So when I say it's lonely, I think you can understand what I mean by that.
Yes, I do. I do understand what you mean. Yes. And it's fantastic that you have taken on this journey because you now have become a role model. You've got that experience that you can share with anybody else, be it a male or female of color that wants to go down that road. I often term that, because you've done that, they can climb on your shoulders by sharing your experience. And whatever you've done good or not so good, you can help them along the way. That is fantastic. And would you encourage anybody else then to become a councillor?
I would. And what I would say, and what I do say, particularly to young people, being a local politician or not, if there's something out there that you're after, you've got to keep going for it. Indeed. If you don't get it the first, second, third, fourth, fifth time, if it's something of your desire, you have to keep at it, as I did.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
But also to encourage people, what I say to my people is you need to be at the table.
Yes.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
You actually do need to be at the table. When I was cabinet member for sustainable transport here in Sandwell, I actually thought, if there's any position for me, it's this highly male-dominated portfolio. Yeah. The influence that I had as a Black woman, the difference in worldview that I brought to the table and still continue to bring to tables today. We all need to be at the table, but it's not everybody that can be an elected politician. So you can use your skills and abilities to get your message over in different ways. one of the biggest way is by us voting.
Right.
Yeah, I
Right.
cannot underestimate how important it is for people to use their vote.
Okay. And there are a lot of people who do not vote. Been made that statement, and I'm sure you know that.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that don't vote, and for me, those are the people as local politicians we should be having dialogues with. You know, women and men have died for us to get a vote.
Absolutely.
They've laid their life on the line. And, you know, it's really hurtful, particularly when I hear women say, I'm not voting. And even more so when it's a Black woman saying, I'm not voting. And I do try my utmost best to still engage with those people in my ward, yeah, and
Yes.
build up a trusting, positive and professional relationship with those people. And, you know, some people I'm able to move them on in that part of their journey and do get them to vote. But I love a challenge, and that's one of my challenge as a local politician, just to empower people to use that voice.
And I think a lot of people, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, I'm not sure they do fully understand the power of the vote, you know, why they should vote. And I guess that's what you try to convince them on, as to the fullness of what that tick in the box means.
Yeah. I kind of look at things a little bit different sometimes. And so when I have people say, look, you know, I'm not voting Conservative and I'm not voting the opposition, Labour, you know, I'm not voting any of you. There are different parties that they can vote for. Yeah. And, you know, I don't want those people to be people that end up being told by another politician, well, you can't complain because you didn't vote. No, I want people to feel that they've got the power in their hands and in that pen, yeah, and to vote. Obviously, I want them to vote for Labour. Of course I do, yeah. But what's necessary is to assist people on that journey. And I think the first thing is to get people to vote.
Yes, and I think there's definitely a reluctance. I don't know what the percentage is, for instance, in Sandwell, of people who do not vote. But if you go throughout the country, there's quite a high percentage of people who do not vote. And it's like, I think it's like they're saying, well, I don't have to do it, it doesn't matter to me. But it does, as you know very well, and you try to convince people very well. And therein lies a challenge, you know, because you go to a, like you're saying, you go to whatever meeting it is, and you sit around the table and you have a blank piece of paper. And the decisions need to be made about the community as to how that community will function. And unless you there, with your experience as a Black lady, and other experiences, of course, then you'd never had that input to say, you know what, you really need this because that section of the community, this is how they think and this is what needs to best represent them. So unless people step up to the plate, we're missing out.
We are, and that's better. We are, and you know, I can only just do my bit, Donald, and it's empowering people. So that's what I will continue to do. Yeah,
and you touch on a good point there, in that young people are just, you know, advised to do what they've got in their mind, what they believe in, what they want, must have a go at that. Because it doesn't matter what field it is, be it, as you say, in politician, military, in the nursing profession, whatever. But what's important is that they do something, because you must deal with it all the time, the fact that we have this knife and gun crime and all these sort of things going on. and the media makes it out to be the mass of the population that's doing this, when it is a smaller percentage, you know. But what bad news sells, as you know. So we want our young people to look at people like yourself as a role model in the community, to say, look what you've done. So that is just fantastic, really. And that's why the Forgotten Generations, that's why it does this sort of thing, so that people like yourself can come to the fore more, and, you know, reach the young people wherever they are. So hopefully they'll press that button and listen to you telling your story, and you know, and become a prime minister even from listening to that.
Wouldn't that be lovely? You know, I do look at parliamentary programs, and really proud of all the Black MPs that are actually in Parliament. Absolutely proud, particularly of the women. There's not enough Black men in Parliament representing Labour at the moment. I know of their journey, and I know how, you know, difficult it can be. But to have a Black Prime Minister in this country would be fantastic. And if that person represents Labour, absolutely even better.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you have many more representative Black people in Sandwell coming up now? Or?
Yeah. So I'm pleased to say we've got three. Yeah. Two Black councillors in Sandwell now. So there's four of us.
Right. And
Yeah.
is there like, is that split of male and female? Or?
So there's myself and another female, and then there's two Black men as well. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, you know, I don't know how prominent they are, but, you know, I would love to see that this is advertised, you know, here in Sandwell or wherever they are, to say that, you know, here's a career path that you can choose as a youngster, and be it right across the board, whatever we do, we should advertise that fact, that, you know, to that youngster, that, you know, you have these different paths that you can choose, and become one of those people that makes a difference in your country, you know.
Absolutely.
I think it's fantastic. I think it's great what you've done, and, you know, you've created history.
Yeah, I mean, just to go back to young people, you know, if anybody was to ask me what my biggest encouragement, what I would say to young people, I'd tell them to live their life, you know, Donald, and enjoy life. Because to be a councillor, I would say you need life and work experience, to bring that into what you do. And not only that, I mean, I've had a fantastic life, ups and downs, and I would like young people to live their lives until the appointed time comes. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and life is like that, isn't it? Ups and downs.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of life, and it's how you manage the downs and the ups, because you're going to manage them both.
Yeah,
as to your success going forward. Just fantastic. So have you got any future revolutionary plans then?
I have, but I'm not going to tell you them because I don't want to jinx anything.
Oh, right, okay.
No, I'm not going to tell you. I just want to keep, but one thing I want to do is keep on going, keep representing people, as I say. Remember, I told you I'm programmed to care. And so, you know, I do genuinely care about people and their well-being. And I sincerely mean all people. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
I'm there to represent all people. And that's what I hope to continue doing.
Yeah. And especially as parents, our parents, we have to pass that sort of thinking on to our youngsters, don't we? And I know you've got children. I didn't ask you how many children you've got, wherever. But, you know, you obviously going to pass that sort of thinking on to them for them to become better people within the society, because that's really important, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I've got two amazing children. They're just as amazing as their dad. And, you know, I'm very lucky. Donald, very, very lucky to have this close family unit that I have, you know. I'm very blessed. Yeah.
Oh, that's excellent. You know, there's a lot of people who can't say what you just said now. You know, and it's such a blessing to hear it, and to record it as a part of this project, The Forgotten Generations. It's wonderful. When I first met you all those years ago, I never thought that this would ever happen, because there was no such thing. Isn't this amazing? I call it the path of life.
I think when I first met you, I wasn't this grey, but I'm one of these women. I have no problems with my grey hair at all.
It looks great. Yes, I remember when we first met in, I think it was the town hall at the Black History event, you know, however many years that was ago. But now to look at the journey that we've both been on, and to come and to meet like this now, I just got to say thank you very much for participating in this, and wish you all the very best going forward in whatever plans you've got. Yeah. Have you got any questions for me at all?
No, just to say, you know, I very much respect all that you do and all that you have done. And it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to relax in this way and talk about myself. So thank you very much for asking me to be part of this afternoon.
You're more than welcome. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And speak soon.
Speak soon. Bye for now.